He was her guard, she was the Tsarina. Then they vanished. Based on whispered truths and forgotten archives of 1917, history remembers kings and empires, but it forgets the whispers behind locked palace doors. This is the story they buried. She was a Romanov princess, elegant, proud, a symbol of a dying empire. He was her guard, a lowly soldier with orders to watch her, not fall for her. But when revolution ignited Russia, they chose love over loyalty. And then, just like that, they vanished. 1917. The Russian Empire was cracking. The Tsar had abdicated. The streets were boiling with revolution. And the once mighty Romanov family had become prisoners in their own palace. Tsarina Tatiana Nikolaevna, graceful, refined, and barely 20, now found herself under house arrest with her sisters. The royal silks were gone, the jewels confiscated. In their place, dim rooms, cold floors, and watchful eyes. And one of those eyes belonged to Dmitri, a young soldier who never expected to be guarding royalty. At first, it was just glances. She would catch him watching her when he thought she wasn't looking. He was younger than the other guards. Kinder, maybe. And she wasn't like the stories of spoiled royals. Tatiana was quiet, dignified, sad. One morning he brought her tea. Their fingers touched, barely. That night Dmitri couldn't sleep. Their conversations were barely more than whispers, a few words here and there when no one was listening. But the silence between them said more than words could. She smiled at him. He stopped looking away. One evening he slipped her a folded note. Inside, a line of poetry. The next day she returned one of her own. A forbidden bond was growing, and it was too late to stop it. They found hiding places for their words, inside books, under teacups. Every glance, every scribbled verse, every brush of fingertips. It was dangerous, and it was thrilling. Love bloomed not in ballrooms but in prison corridors. She was his prisoner. But in truth they both were. Then came the whispers. The executions were coming. The Bolsheviks didn't want royal survivors. Dmitri knew what that meant. They would kill her. He couldn't let that happen. The plan was insane. A stolen key, a bribe, a cart in the woods. Tatiana would dress as a peasant. He'd lead her through the guard checkpoint. No one could know, not even her sisters. That night, they vanished, slipped into the snow while the palace slept. By morning the guards were shouting. The room was empty. The Tsarina was gone. Weeks later, the Romanov family was executed. All of them, or so they said. But Tatiana's body was never confirmed. And Dmitri? He was never found either. Some claimed they saw her in Paris, veiled and quiet, walking beside a tall man who never left her side. Others said they died in the Ural Mountains trying to escape the Reds. No proof, no graves, just rumors. But maybe that's the ending they wanted. A princess and a soldier, escaping the empire that tried to own them both. In the end, they chose love. And they chose freedom. And maybe, just maybe, they got both. Years passed. The world moved on. The Romanov dynasty faded into the pages of history books. Photographs were banned, letters were burned. But not all the ghosts stayed silent. In the back corners of old French cafes, a few old men swore they once saw her. Tall, regal, always dressed in grey, and always beside the same man, one with soldier's posture and eyes that never stopped scanning the room. They paid in cash, spoke in whispers, disappeared before dawn. Some said she worked as a seamstress. Others said she painted. He may have worked in a printing shop. Or maybe he was a doorman at the opera. No one knew for sure. But in every version of the story, they were always together. The Soviet government denied everything. There were no survivors, they insisted, but behind closed doors they kept searching. Interrogations, surveillance. The possibility of a living Romanov made them nervous. Very nervous. In 1941, during the chaos of World War II, a curious thing happened. A Red Army officer swore he saw a woman matching Tatiana's description. In a remote village in Switzerland, he filed a report. It disappeared. The rumors refused to die. A secret bank account opened in Berlin, signed TN. A gold locket found in a train station locker in Vienna. Inside, a miniature portrait of Tsar Nicholas and a man in uniform. No fingerprints, no names, only echoes. Some historians called it fantasy, romantic nonsense, but others weren't so sure. Because love, real love, doesn't need monuments. It leaves traces, in the hearts of those who still believe. In the idea that somewhere, against all odds, a Tsarina and her guard made it out. That in a world tearing itself apart, two people ran away from power, from duty, from everything, just to be together. And maybe that's the kind of ending they earned. Not royal titles, not a tragic death, but a quiet life. In the shadows, in freedom, in love. They moved through cities like ghosts. First Helsinki, then perhaps Stockholm. Tatiana learned to sew. Dmitri worked nights loading ships. Their hands roughened, their Russian faded. But their bond only deepened. Sometimes on cold mornings, Tatiana would rise before dawn, standing by the window with tea and trembling hands. Dmitri would watch her from behind, knowing exactly what she was thinking. The sisters, her mother, the life she left behind. To live. Guilt doesn't ask permission. It creeps in slowly like winter. But love, real love, can thaw even the hardest frost. Dmitri would place his coat on her shoulders, wrap his arms around her and whisper, "You survived for them." They changed names. He was Ivan. She became Nina. They built a garden, bought a small piano. Never a camera. And when the war came again, when Hitler's armies rolled across Europe, they ran once more. Some say they crossed into Switzerland. Others believe they made it to Canada. In one small village, a child remembered a tall woman who told bedtime stories with strange names. Anastasia, Olga, Alexei. Another child said the old man always carried a folded piece of paper in his coat. A poem. No one ever saw what it said. In 1962, an archivist in London discovered a collection of anonymous letters written in old, aristocratic Russian. They described gardens, books, the sound of rain on a cottage roof. The letters were signed only with a single letter, T. They were never published. The archive caught fire weeks later. The letters were lost. But even fire can't burn memory. It lingers, in rumours, in whispers, in what-ifs. One final rumour. In the early 1980s, a woman in her 80s passed away in northern France. No family, no ID. But beside her bed was a faded locket. Inside, two miniature portraits, one of Tsar Nicholas II, and one of a young soldier, hand-painted in loving detail. The staff said she smiled before her final breath, and whispered, "He's waiting." The locket disappeared the next day. Some stories are history, others are legend, and some are both. Because love, the kind that defies nations, survives wars, and slips between the cracks of history, never really disappears. It waits, it remembers, it whispers. We were here. History may have erased their names, but love, the real kind, doesn't need permission to survive. In a world of revolutions and ruin, theirs was a quiet rebellion. No throne, no medals, just two souls who found each other and vanished into freedom. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more forgotten love stories and hidden histories. And hit the bell, so the whispers of the past never go unheard.